Alrighty, I am showing noon on the dot, so we will go ahead and kick things off. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the American Family Insurance DreamBank, where we believe in the transformative power of dreams. My name is Andy Frisky, and I am so excited and thrilled to have everyone tuning in today, whether you're joining us live or watching on the recording. Always love to learn where people are tuning in from. So if you're comfortable in doing so, go ahead and pop that in the chat section. Always love seeing where people are joining us from today. But to give some of you who maybe aren't familiar with DreamBank as to what we do and why we're here, here at American Family Insurance, we believe that communities are stronger and the future is brighter when people are actively pursuing their dreams. And that's why DreamBank was created a little over 10 years ago. It's an inspirational community destination and digital experience that is dedicated to dreamers everywhere. Our offerings are designed to help you celebrate the dream journey, overcome obstacles, and to stay motivated. And we do that through about 15 to 30 free events a month that are organized into 9 distinct buckets. I'll go ahead and I'll drop a link in the chat that highlights those event series as well as our upcoming programs. But we'd really like to take a few moments here and introduce our featured speaker today, Aaron Seligman. So Aaron is an activity planner, parent, publisher of the free local website and newsletter, Macaroni Kid Madison. And today he will be talking about the art of planning family activities. And before we go ahead and start, again, we'd just love to take a few moments to talk about a few housekeeping items. So grateful for all of you to join us here today. And just a reminder that this is not a class. You all signed up for this, and active participation is certainly encouraged, especially to get the most out of this event. I know Aaron's got a lot of great insights and nuggets to share with you all today. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and kick it over to Aaron. Aaron, take it away.
Cool. Can everybody see my screen here? Actually, I can't see the chat now, so I'm gonna. Yeah, cool. And so I'm going to try to keep the chat, I guess, on my other screen. And so if you do have comments, if you see me looking over, it's not that I'm, distracted or bored or something. I'm going to just be trying to follow what folks are doing. So, yeah, I'm excited to jump in and talk to you guys about this, share some ideas and kind of questions and framework things. During the presentation, I'm going to have in italics kind of on a number of the slides, little spots for questions and responses. So I will try to read those out loud. And if you're, on video or not, whatever, if you want to unmute during those times, that's great. And either chime in or type your answers, just to give you kind of space to reflect and share knowledge and ideas. I certainly don't claim to be the expert in any of this, or sort of the know-it-all in any of these. So to get us going, let me turn to our next slide. Okay. So I think, as I was thinking about this, like if you could either share in the chat or unmute either a big barrier that you have to finding and actually doing family activities, so either finding them or getting out the door to do them, or on the positive side, what's one tip you've learned, something that, a little trick, hack, whatever you call it, that works for your family. All right, we'll take like 15 more seconds. All right, so yeah, if finding the time is a challenge, lead time or ramp up, that's a good one. Yeah, and we'll talk about kind of what that ramp up or lead time can look like and how to sort of do it efficiently for your family and your kids, and some kind of ways to think about doing that time so you can kind of operationalize that and see what it can really look like. Great. So I'm going to start with kind of 3 quick stories that kind of illustrate my thinking and values about planning family activities. The first was years ago. Before I had kids, I worked in an office, and I had a coworker who we would check in with every Monday morning, and we'd go back and forth and share little pleasantries and, how was your weekend? How was your weekend? And I would usually say, and this isn't like a humble brag thing about how amazing my wife and I were, but like we'd have gone for a hike, or we'd have tried a new restaurant, or we'd have seen other friends, or done something that was like reasonably fun for us. And he would sort of tick off, I had all these like chores and errands to run, and our kids had 5 baseball games and 3 soccer games, and and then it was like the sigh of relief of like, so can we talk about work here? That like he would almost rather have been in the office than at home, and that like this was sort of his relief time. And my takeaway there was, I don't have kids yet. I don't know what it's like. I know it's hard. I know I don't want to be that guy. The second was I was on a trip to a new place somewhere I hadn't been before, and I ran into somebody who she'd been there for 4 days before and was on her way out. And I said, oh, what did you see here? What were cool spots that we should check out? And she told me at one spot, and she was like, well, yeah, this one was okay. Like, it was really good for Instagram, but I got kind of bored, so I guess it was okay. And like, I'm on social media, it's fine. I see the value in certain things, but it made me realize like, oh, I do not want to do things just for the Instagram. Like, if it's not good and enjoyable and interesting or stimulating or energizing for me, like, I don't want to do it just because it's going to show well on Instagram. So like, I want to do things that are for me, for my family. Like, I want other people to have that experience too. And the third thing is, my wife used to works in public health, and they have a kind of common mantra that like, we want to make the healthy choice the easy choice. That obviously during COVID, there were things around, rather than talk about regulations and restrictions and taking things away from people, it's about how do you create nudges and incentives and just set people up for success. So, examples in public health are like, if the restaurant defaults to, the salad and you have to ask for the French fries separately, or, there's a tax on smoking or cigarettes or something, like, to disincentivize people to do that, just makes it a little more challenging to do the unhealthy thing. So when I think about planning family activities, it's really about how do you make the choice or make the active choice or make the activity easy for yourself and remove some of those barriers, and not saying that you have to do one thing or the other. So those are kind of the three like values that I think about. So today I'll just talk a little bit about kind of why me, Macaroni Kid, what this will and won't cover, and then our kind of 3 tips of like how to know what you want, how to get ready, set, and go to actually do them, or not, of when you should just like, actually, I don't want to do that. And we'll talk about some tools and other kind of closing for you. So for me, I do Macaroni Kid. This used to be Hula Frog for folks who knew about it. And it's a website, it's a newsletter, we have social media. We'll show you kind of, kid-friendly things that are generally free or low cost for families to do in our local area. There's a whole network of Macaroni Kid publishers across the country. We're owned by Certificate, a national brand that's sort of like the Groupon for kid activities and family stuff. So a lot of good people who are really doing this for the right reason because they want to connect with their communities and share resources. And for me, the timing of being Madison native and familiar with our area, a parent who did like to get out and do stuff with my kids, and my kids are now 4 and 7, and so when COVID first started, they were 1 and 4, and that time for a lot of it had a lot of impacts on people all over the place, and some much more serious than others. And so one of the kind of parenting reflections was putting a halt in all of our scheduled activities meant that you had to kind of go from that zero-based thing of, okay, we have nothing scheduled, and then as it eased and different restrictions and vaccines and things, like, we can do more. It was both a challenge and an opportunity to say, oh, what do we want to do? Because those things that we had done pre-COVID, now our kids are a year, 2, 3 years older, and some of the opportunities and, that business that was here isn't there anymore, that festival that goes on isn't there anymore, or it's changed, or there's a new thing. So it was kind of that opportunity to really reflect and decide what we wanted to do. And so I really wanted to help create this kind of go-to source for families in our area. So what this is not going to be, and I apologize if you signed up and, you want to hop off, that's cool. This isn't going to be like my sort of listicle of the 10 best things in our area, the 3 things that active parents do in Madison that, you didn't know about, or some like secret that you just hadn't uncovered. Like, I would encourage you to check our website, check other places and see for, what's going on and what are cool places to visit in the area. And I also don't want this to be sort of just a motivational speech or to give you a sort of fear that you're missing out, that all the cool parents are doing one thing and you're not getting it, or it's a guilt trip that, your kids aren't getting the cool experiences that mine are. Like, it's not intended to be that kind of guilt or one of these, how to just make time for yourself or self-help or something like that. That's important. It's just not my expertise. And this also isn't sort of a magic, like static, generic formula to say, okay, if you do each weekend, 2 activities plus 3 plus a 20-minute rest plus bring a water bottle, you're good to go. Like, it's about, it won't be that. And it's also not that kind of static or limited resource. Like, I'm here, there are other good resources to kind of find things. So what we are going to talk about is really a framework or kind of questions to ask yourself in kind of in a timeless and continuous way to say, oh, okay, this weekend, this day, this, back to school time, like, what are we looking to do? How can we do it? What changes might we want to make? And to kind of keep it at that, like, 1,000-foot view of things that I'm not going to tell you what to do at like 1 o'clock today, but things that you can kind of think about, like, generally and kind of trends, but not such a broad, like, we want to do things that are fun and some just like really high level thing that doesn't make a lot of sense. And I really want to make these kind of questions and examples practical for you and understand how to kind of apply it personally. So one of the things about myself, I started my career with the Teach for America program, and in their like crash course on how to be a teacher, one of the key things they emphasize is having a measurable objective for everybody. That, their acronym was SWBAT, so students will be able to. So in our case, today I want to go over kind of the parents will be able to do that by the end of our time together. They can understand and kind of identify things that are kid-focused versus kid-friendly, and activities that are good for rest and things that are good for leisure and why those are different. And develop at least one kind of tool, system, or idea to help you make getting ready and going out easier, to identify who you might want to go out with, if it's good company or good friends, and again, those are different. And also how to just, when an activity isn't a good fit, to say yes, to say no, and then yes. And that's a technique we'll talk about when an activity is not a good fit. Is there anything on here that you look at and think, I'd really also like to know that? Any other like questions folks have at this point to really want to make sure that I explain or you have time to talk about tools or ideas for? So you can either unmute and shout it out or drop it in the chat there. All right. So, if you have questions that pop up or things that, I'm not explaining well or you want to know more about, please ask those. But our first thing is going to be about how to just kind of know what do you want to do. And one way to think about it is activities that are kid-friendly versus kid-focused. And one of the things that I've found is that, it's unfortunately not linear in terms of if I spend more money on an activity or we spend more time in an activity that's inherently better or more fun for our family. That kids really need some kind of like stimulation and some kind of activity, but it may be less than you might think. But kid-friendly, I think of as, places where you can bring your kids to, and it won't be inappropriate or it won't be stressful for you of like, oh, geez, what if my kids are being kids and either people are going to look at us weird or they're going to be uncomfortable or I'm going to be worried about their safety or something like that. Unfortunately, in Madison, there's a lot of places like that, restaurants and parks and beer gardens and plenty of festivals and other kinds of activities that you can, markets and things that kids can go to that it's totally cool to bring your kids along. But I think that's different from things that are like kid-focused. So, the Children's Museum or a story time or something that's that can be a lot of fun and can be great. and the activity is really centered around your kid doing something there. And so those are just, again, not that one is inherently like good or bad, but as you think about kind of your own energy level and like, what am I up for today? Like, do I want to be at something where my kids are going to be entertained, or they're going to be doing something there? Do I want to be able to do it with them? Do I want to be able to like chat with some other parents while the kids are safe and playing? Or again, do I want something that's like the kids are really, the entertainment here may not be like as exciting for me, but either seeing my kids have this new experience or get to play with this thing or build this thing is kind of cool. So do folks have some examples of things that they like, either in Madison or for their family, that are like kid-friendly or kid-focused? Oh, yeah. Get little hijinks. Did anybody go, I don't know, they had the science thing this week? Oh, Andy, if you didn't note that the chat's not available?
I'll go ahead and I'll see if I can address that, but just go ahead and use the Q&A to type any sort of questions or comments that you have.
Okay. Sounds good. Anybody else want to either unmute or Q&A kid-friendly or kid-focused thing that they like in town? So the other thing, in addition to kid-friendly and kid-focused, the other kind of frame, and again, they're not polar opposites. Like there can be overlap, or there can be things like, at a beer garden, they could have a sandbox that kids can play in. That part of it is kid-focused, but like the area the parents can go is, but sitting at a picnic table too is also kid-friendly. So it's not the one that anything that's kid-friendly or kid-focused is also going to be kid-friendly, but the inverse isn't necessarily true. The other part about just knowing what you want is to think about things that bring you rest and things that you do for leisure. And there's kind of some research on this that America is one of these countries where we have this kind of obsession with like productive rest time, that we have this sense of guilt of like, if I'm not doing something really productive or virtuous or achieving something in my free time, if my hobby doesn't make something or isn't a side project or I can show something really tangible, then it's like that kind of stresses us out. And to really kind of get away from that thinking, and to be okay with kind of what we want and we need. So things that you do for rest are really about helping you kind of recharge for the next thing. So whether it's downtime, whether it's a vacation where you go and you're just hanging out. When I was a kid, my dad would always distinguish between a trip and a vacation, and that just meant for us like, okay, how much structured time is there going to be wherever we're going? Is this a thing where, not that you can't do active things on a vacation and take a tour and be active and run around and see places, but like, is it sort of, are there things that we for sure want to see and do, or is it like, find something just to relax and whatever you want is fine. Where leisure is something that you actually pursue for the sake of it, that you want to go and do this activity, you want to learn more about something, you want to visit some place and try these new foods or something, and that's you're drawing the energy from that actual activity versus rest, where it's helping you kind of recharge to like get back to either work or leisure or some other hobby or something. Do people have questions about that? Can maybe somebody think of an example of something that they do for leisure with their family?
Aaron, as comments are coming in, I know that I have a
Yeah.
3-year-old son at home, and I know that for leisure activities, one big thing
Hmm.
for us in particular is exploring various disc golf courses. So I
Ah.
I'm an avid disc golfer, and my partner at home
Hmm.
not so much, but my my 3-year-old son absolutely loves exploring and loves throwing. And there's usually a park in there as well. So exploring various green spaces, and then obviously incorporating some of the parks as well too. So
Yeah. Um, and what I like about actually the park is a good example because there's times when we go in and say, oh, okay, we really want to go to like I don't know if anybody's been to like Lake Farm Park over right off the by Lucier like Family Center. It's right next to the lake, and there's some hiking trails and all. There's a tower that you can climb, and like it's a cool view. And so going there and saying, okay, like I wanna my kids to see this cool view. They like to pretend to be princesses, and that can be their castle, and they'll like climb up and do it. So that might be the thing that we wanna actually go to. Like I mean that's literally a structure, but like that's our kind of leisure thing. They're like, yeah, we're gonna hike up to this tower and check it out. But on the way, there might be a really cool bug you see, and there might be, some puddles to stomp in, or there might be some rocks to stack up and things, and to say like, that's great. Like, check those out too. That can be really both restorative and energizing for you. And even if it wasn't on the sort of like agenda, that's that's okay. That's the kind of like stimulation and experience that kids love and will remember. I'm sure folks have read things about how kids in particular really value, even though they might say, "Oh, I really want that toy or I want that new stuffed animal or something." What will be memorable and stick with them are experiences more than stuff. And so finding these kinds of opportunities for them is really important, both for development and things, and for yourself, and like in terms of their kind of long-term growth. Um, Other people have examples of rest or leisure things that they like to do, or
I think a big one for us too, and building on what you mentioned about the leisure and then stopping and appreciating all of the other nuances along the way, are farmers markets, whether it's the one downtown Madison or any of the other
hmm
surrounding cities. That's may seem like a very small gesture or a small activation, but has really had a profound effect on my son. And the memory recall and the things that he experiences along the way. I mean, that's something that we've certainly incorporated into our weekly routine whenever we are in town on the weekends.
yeah. And the thing I like about the farmers market too is, for my kids, it's both. There's the actual like learning thing about, hey, this is where like food comes from, and these are actual farmers. It's a chance to like try new stuff, that there's samples of things, and there's sort of the peer like, oh look, other kids are trying that, spicy whatever that if I served it to you at home, you might think is weird. Like you're seeing other people do it and enjoy it, so like you're more open to sort of trying something new. Um, and it can be memorable and like, oh look, we're cooking the corn that you picked out at the market today, and you helped with that. And like the Capitol steps, like my kids love playing hide and seek behind the trees around the on the Capitol lawn. And like it has nothing to do with the fact that it's a farmer's market, but like for them, taking that little rest in between. Okay, we're exploring, these different booths and talking to farmers and doing this thing, but like, hey, we want 10 minutes just to run around and hide behind the trees. Like that's cool too, to have that kind of exploring thing. So giving yourself the time to say, hey, we're going to have exploring, that we're not rushing off to the next thing because we want them to like discover and explore something that they might have come up with.
Aaron, from a parent's perspective, and I know it sounds like
Yeah.
that you and your family incorporate time at the farmers market already, but what are some of your favorite rest and leisure activities for you and your family?
So I do really like, and maybe I'll move this on to the next slide here about just kind of getting ready. Is really like I think the one thing I would say is it's a constant sort of like or continuous evolution, that the things that they wanted when they were 2 and 3 are maybe a little different. There's some that they're like, oh, hey, yeah, we remember that thing we did. And right, that place had the tower. We should do that. And then the next time you go, you discover a different path, or, oh, there's a playground, close by that maybe we didn't see the first time, that now we're going to go check that out. So I like those kind of things where you can see it in multiple ways and kind of do it a little differently, and also like building in the kind of the journey part of, oh, maybe we stopped somewhere on the way to, did an errand, or we're going to go to this thing. And, obviously, like if you end with, and then we got ice cream, it makes every experience more exciting. So like, or maybe, if you, and just mixing up where you do the lunch or the snack, and those kind of things can also add a lot of variety to the experience for the kids. And again, kind of keep you, in food cases, like literally energized, but it also, it just takes some of the stress out of it. Like, oh, we don't have to plan this whole new thing. And what if I get lost and I don't know the people and I don't know the thing? Like, the general structure to it, but you can like see it in a little bit different way. So I think any of those kind of like places you can walk around and explore of, the Union Terrace, any of the libraries that have, kind of a kid area, and maybe there's a program that they're having that day, and then there's like an art thing you can go check out. And, my kids are pretty good at finding, like, they'll climb on stuff, and sometimes they'll climb on stuff that they shouldn't climb on. But like making up a little game, or, like that's where, if you watch Bluey, like the number of Bluey games that we've tried to do, for real life, of hiding behind the shadows as we're walking, from here to there, or hiding behind something, or, doing a role playing thing. Like you can make a lot of the places more dynamic, even if it wasn't the sort of structured, like, oh, there was an art teacher or a ride or something that's going on. Like you can play those games in a different place, makes it exciting. So I think, really continuing to ask yourself these questions of like, oh, are we looking for something that's kid friendly today or kid focused today? And knowing that, that should be the only constant is change. I realize on the slide that like your kids will change and grow, and something you might not have seen, but like having a goal, and it doesn't have to be we're going to hit 10 farmers markets today. It's going to be like, we want to hit the farmers market and we want to get something for dinner. And as long as you do that, like, great. Anything else that happens is just like bonus fun and experience for the family. So having that sort of, not like set low expectations, but having a sort of purpose also helps the kids kind of know what to expect, and for yourself to not be disappointed. It's like, oh, we didn't get the 10 things done we wanted. Like we had this goal and we hit it, and we don't have to be here for another hour if we're all tired and want to leave. Like that's okay too. So any last questions about that? Or not last questions, but additional comments, questions about kid friendly, kid focused, rest and leisure. So our next kind of, I'm sorry?
I was just saying nothing coming in. So I think we're good.
Okay, cool. So I think the next kind of framework to think about is like, okay, once you know what you want, and again, that could change today, it could change tomorrow. I know for myself this summer, there's just like so much going on that we might say, geez, we've been out the last 3 nights. We actually need a chill night tonight, or we need a day where we just do something. The kids have been in the car a lot. Like, we need something that we don't need to drive to, or it's been really hot. We need something indoors. And that might be different than what you thought at the start of the week, because you didn't realize you're going to be outside, or it was going to be 100 degrees like it is today or something. And so knowing, kind of asking that, oh, are we looking for kid-friendly or kid-focused? Are we looking for, a rest or a leisure thing? What's our goal here? Like asking yourself those kind of questions, I think, can really help. And once you've figured that out, then taking this kind of public health approach of making it an easy choice to actually get out and do it. So I mentioned an example of like, you can default to salad, or, one of the things they would work on is how do you make farmers markets and food, more accessible to people, regardless of where they live. So one way to do that is to first just get ready. So having your like stuff prepared. I have a little, those little like fanny packs and shoulder things that are somehow trendy. I don't know fashion that well, but like those things that, my dad wore in the 80s and were all neon. Now, like, people wear those again. Those are actually super helpful to have, like, a water bottle, a snack, a change of clothes, if you have stuff in your car, just so you're like, you can actually get out the door and go, that you don't have to like pack up a bunch of things, each time for a new trip. So I know if your kids are younger, like diaper bags are great. And, hopefully as they get older, you need fewer stuff, but the clothes are bigger. So having extra things there can be helpful, or stuff in your car to entertain them, regardless of where they're going. And also thinking about kind of where are you going? Oh, is there something on the route that we're doing, to or from? Like my kids love riding in the grocery carts. So like if we need to go grocery shopping, I know it's going to take longer with them, but it knocks out an errand we needed to do on our way to something fun or from something. Like it definitely still saves us time and is more interesting for everybody on the back end. And then the other thing that my wife and I've tried to do is like, maybe one of us wanted to exercise today, or we just needed some time to ourselves. Like one of us could walk to the place or ride our bike or, jog home from the thing, as a way to sort of add that variety and add that time for yourself, that you might not be able to do otherwise. I don't know if other folks have little tips that they use to just sort of get out the door. I know some folks will use, a little timer that say, okay, kids, we're leaving in 10 minutes, and they can see the timer kind of count down, or, making a little checklist or something. But folks have other ideas of things they do to help themselves just like be ready to get out the door and to, save a little time.
I think you have a pretty good list here, whether it's all encompassing or at least a good baseline to work with. I have some questions for you, but I'll save them at the end, more so on the
Okay.
how or the what instead of the why.
Okay.
No, I love your
Sure.
list there, though.
Yep. Thanks. So the next thing is just really, to get yourself set of both your kind of information and expectations that, think about, okay, we're going to have to park here, or we got tickets, we registered, we got that Eventbrite link. There was a coupon. So, we put that on our phone. Like my wife and I just use a Google Calendar. I know there's much cooler and sophisticated apps, but like having a calendar where we can sort of see each other's stuff, and then in the calendar event, you put there's that kid singer they like is performing at 1:00. Okay, so we should like try to hit that, and inviting friends that way too, on the event just works well for us. And figuring out, okay, again, can you drop the people off and park somewhere? Can you bike to it? Can you do something to kind of make the journey interesting? And then really setting kind of expectations for your kids, that knowing, okay, we're going to get ice cream after we have dinner, or, we're going to this thing, into the carnival, and you're going to get to do, 4 rides, or you're going to get to play 2 games, and you're going to, yes, there's a toy shop here, and you're going to get to pick up something that's less than $10, or whatever the expectation is. My daughter likes some surprises, but she also really likes to kind of know what we're doing. And, we did something last weekend where we just kind of surprised that we did like a last minute change. And she was like, what? We're doing this? I didn't have time to be excited about it. And that certainly there's times for surprises and all, but I think it really helps to have that sort of expectation set before you go out, so that the kids aren't, well, why can't we get, that huge toy, or why can't we get this other thing? Like having that little conversation, even in the car on the way to the thing, can help. I don't know, folks, about the tips there. And so the last part of just kind of making it easier for yourself is how you actually go. I don't know if folks have heard the term allo parents, but this is a thing of, a lot of other like cultures around the world, and maybe historically it was more common in the U.S. when people were in sort of more clan type organizations or smaller communities, of like having other parents who can watch your kids. And that doesn't mean they're necessarily your best friends or your kid's best friend, but just like other people who, your kid's going to be okay when they all have to go to the bathroom at the same time. Great. Somebody who can take 3 kids instead of just 1, or somebody who can stand in line for the face painting thing helps a lot, so that like you're not all kind of waiting around, or somebody can go get the, the grown-up food or drinks. Makes it a lot easier at events. So having those, and obviously if you have extended family, that's a huge bonus, but other friends, people from the soccer team, from school, from, religious organization, whatever, like other parents who are just going to be at the event and, don't have to have the expectation that you're all going to play together and hang out and whatever, but like, hey, we'll be there. So we know there's sort of general, like, it just makes the sort of parenting at scale a lot easier. Or you need to take that work phone call for 20 minutes, like, they're going to be okay. The other kind of people to look for are good company and good friends. And there's a difference here too of like people who are good company are the ones you actually really want to spend time with, and you enjoy conversation and you enjoy, they're interesting, they like you have things in common. And other people can be good friends who are just like, they're reliable, they're responsive, they might be proactive and suggest activities for you. And I don't know if, I can think of, I have friends who fit in sort of all of these categories. Ideally, each friend would be all three, but like, that's just not the reality. There's some friends that I have who like, it's awesome when we hang out with them, but they're horrible at responding to that text or that invite. But like when you see them at the park, they're like great to hang out and play with. We just know they can't like plan ahead. And there's others who are like, they're the ones who are great at organizing everybody, and they get the tickets in advance, and they, come up with the idea and they set it out, and then you meet them and you're like, ooh, I don't necessarily want to hang out with you, but our kids get along really well, and thank you for organizing this event. And again, like that works. Like that's a helpful resource to have, and just sort of know like, yep, it's, people change, and then there's different people, and you won't know really until you try. And the more and this is the kind of thing where the more you get out and the more you do things, like the more you'll run into the reliable people, and you'll make good friends, and the friends from school, or that kid that or the parents of the kid your kid plays with and wanted to have that play date with, like just the more you try these things, like it does get easier. Anybody have a activity they're thinking of going to soon, and thinking of some other parents they might be looking to hang out with, or other examples they have of people who are good company or good friends?
Yeah, this is, I think that how the formula or the framework in which you laid out here makes a lot of sense, Aaron, and it's something that I personally, can identify with. I think my question for you is more so, and maybe I'm jumping ahead a little bit here, but it seems to be the recurring theme with this is allowing yourself or your family options and flexibility within a framework, right? And correct me if I'm wrong there, Aaron, but I think that's like the common thread of the reoccurring theme that I'm seeing here. The example that you mentioned with your daughter about, which I thought was so cute and adorable, but it was like, Dad, I didn't have enough time to be excited about it, right? I was wondering maybe if you could give an example in which the flexibility or framework that you kind of allow you and your family maybe backfired, and how you chose to or how you and your partner chose to overcome that.
I think one of the things that has been a discovery for us is kind of this, like, kids need stimulation or they need activity, but it's not like, again, that sort of non-linear part that, like, I remember going to, where were we this summer? I think it was like Fête de Marquette maybe, and like there's, the carnival rides where like you have to spend money and wait in line and buy tickets and all that, and like they're fun and they enjoyed it, but like really they enjoyed there was like an area of balls and sort of some like construction stuff of like somebody had, it was like you could create your own art things or build up with cardboard and do that kind of stuff. And like they spent a half hour like just sitting calmly, coloring on the cardboard, building a fort, like role playing and kind of thing. And like my perception of what I thought would be really entertaining for them was the rides, and I thought they'd like see that and it'd be fine. And so then when we're like, oh, actually it's time, we got to go get dinner, or it's starting to rain or something, we need to leave. Like I was like, shoot, they didn't have enough time for the cardboard, the thing that they really wanted to do. And so to me, that like giving your kids the sort of opportunity to explore more and to say like what you think is going to be the best or the most exciting for them might not be. And so giving yourself that sort of time and that sort of like having that flexibility can be really helpful. And, then when they were playing with the cardboard, like we ran into some other friends and had a great conversation that we normally don't get to have at a festival where it's, kind of kids in passing, hey, how's it going with you? How's it with you? Bye. On to the next thing. So like kind of sort of not presupposing or prejudging too much of what I think is going to be the best thing or the most entertaining thing for them, or not trying to rush them around to say, oh, you saw this, but look, there's balloons over there. Oh, look, there's a magician there. Oh, look, there's this. Like, they'll explore. And if they don't see it this time, like, that's okay. Maybe they'll see it, the next festival, the next year, the next time. Like, they're having a good time. You don't need to like rush them along.
Great perspective. I appreciate that.
And so the kind of last thing I'll say to all this is, as much as, and it's in my obviously like self-interest in Macaroni Kid of promoting, local events and things for folks to like get out and do things. And I do think, experiences are good for kids and parents. And I think they are energizing if you do them in kind of these ways. There are times when there's just too much or you just can't. And so how to like say no. And I'll share an article. There's an Israeli psychologist who has this kind of framework of saying yes, no, and then yes to things, and kind of explains that like we often are kind of, we like to get along with people. So we try to, if somebody asks you to do something or invites you, or your kids ask for something, for a toy, or somebody else invites you to an event, that you want to try to accommodate it, or you kind of avoid giving a response or committing and maybe we'll see, I don't know, or maybe, because you just don't want to like have that confrontation of saying no. And that actually like is more stressful for you. It's not great for the relationship with your kids or with other people. So the other way to think about it is to say, okay, I'm actually saying yes. Think about what you're saying yes to. That it's not that, I just don't want to do that thing. Like, what are you going to do? It's an opportunity cost. Like, what are you going to do with your time, with that day, with your money? What are you saying yes to? And say yes to yourself, to your family, and think about your values and what's important to you, and what else you need to do maybe at that time or that day, and say, okay, I'm going to say yes to this, and that can be in your head, and then say no with confidence to the invitation to your kids, and then again to be okay with that, and then to say, and then the yes question mark is think about is there I'm saying no today, and next month there's going to be another festival where we are going to get to go on the rides, or no, we're not going out to that restaurant tonight. We have a lot of leftover stuff in our fridge. We got all that great stuff from the farmer's market. So you're saying yes to cooking a good farmer's market meal at home. You're saying no to going out to the restaurant. And hey, we're around next weekend. We'd love to go out with you guys again that time. So I don't know if folks had an example of something that they like recently did say no to, or wish they had, or something coming up that they kind of want to say no to, but need to, but aren't sure how to do it or how to think about that.
I'll hold some space for people that might be typing their responses right now.
Yeah.
And I know I don't want this to be a one-sided conversation, right, Aaron? The folks who are tuning in, please go ahead and sure. Do so. But I think one of the issues.
And while folks are, go for it.
Oh, I was going to say, I think the issue that my partner and I run into, and I mean, we're both, fairly physically active, we drink plenty of water, we try and get good sleep, but I think it's just managing our energy as the parents,
Mm-hmm.
And then feeling somewhat guilt or shame around saying no to some of these enriching activities because, the chaperones more or less are burnt out or tired. And that, obviously I kind of keyed in on some of the areas in which I feel are rather pivotal in making sure that we're operating at our best so that we can show up as our best version of ourselves for our kids. But wondering maybe if you have any tips or insights in regards to that. I think the last bit that you shared right there was really important about, if we're saying no now, let's think about future opportunities in which we will be able to say yes. But was wondering maybe if you had any other tips or insights based on the case study or the scenario that I had referenced.
Yeah, I think it's also kind of looping back to like rest versus leisure and and just kind of like knowing what you want. Like, so I'll give an example. My daughter goes to school and to an elementary school, and they needed some help with like developing some new policy stuff, and I do that in my day job, and was like, I really don't want to do this. Like, I know I have, this isn't like a humble brag thing, but like, I know I have some like skills in this area, but like, I just don't want to do my day job again, um, in this capacity. They did need help with the PTA and like organizing a back to school event and a couple other things during the year. So I said, I'm going to say yes to myself of like, I don't, of my time of not doing my day job later. I'm going to say no to doing this policy work, and I am saying yes to helping out at a couple of the PTA events. And so to me, it was about that's still leisure. That's not rest. Like planning a back to school event or things like that. I want to create that other experience for the families. But it was thinking about what's important for me and what I need, like now, and how I'm going to sort of protect my own time. Yeah, so Jade, I like that it helps with your kind of decision fatigue, that like you're saying yes to yourself, and it doesn't have to be a sort of it's this or nothing else. It's not a kind of binary thing, that there's times when you need to like, what about this? Or I can't volunteer for, even, maybe you can't volunteer for the PTA thing, but some other parents who want to get involved. You know what? I can't, but I got like 4 names of other neighbors who I think would love to get involved in the school. I'll suggest it to them, and maybe a personal invite will get them motivated. So like there are ways to sort of keep up the relationship, and you want people to invite you and ask you to do things again. It just might not be now. And I know we're running late on time, so I did want to close with sort of 2 quick things here. Just some other like tools that I mentioned, having that go bag, a shared calendar. One thing I use is like a photo sharing app I used back then. I know there's Tiny Beans is another one, but like having those pictures, so you're not doing things for the Instagram, but like you are creating those memories for yourself and your kids. And for my kids, oftentimes it's helpful to look back like, oh, we're going to that fair. Remember you guys went there last year? And like I showing them a picture of it, and they're like, oh, right. Oh, we're going to go play with, that kid from your school or from camp who, like, oh, right, here's a picture of them. Can both kind of jog their memories and help make the memories out of, fun things they're doing. I also really like this app, Marco Polo, where it's just sharing videos on a cloud-based thing, and you can create little like groups. And so it doesn't have to be curated or edited or anything, but, for our parents and things of just like, hey, look, here's the kids, they're having fun playing on the, slide at this park. Like, this isn't going to be the memory that's going to define their childhood, but like, it's a cute thing we're doing today. And just to kind of let other people know, let your friends or family or whatever, like, know, and you can have little groups to kind of share fun things. That way, if you have friends in other cities kind of thing, just to get a sense of like, what is your day-to-day stuff. So it doesn't have to be those Instagram, at the edge of a cliff moments of just like being able to share kind of more day-to-day things. Anybody else have fun little tips or tools that they use?
Yeah, I think I'm not familiar with Back Then or Marco Polo, but there's something that is a great tool for grandparents or maybe family members who aren't in the immediate vicinity. It's Framio, and I'm sure there's a handful of different ones, but
oh, sure,
it's just a way to kind of showcase those memories, right? Especially for loved ones that aren't firsthand available to do that. I know with like some of my grandparents, for example, maybe not as mobile as they wanted to be, or kind of nearing the back nine of their life. It was just a great way to kind of keep them engaged, but then also kind of showcase, whether it's in your own home or a relative's or friend's own home, great cloud-based program in which you could easily upload pictures and memories to as well. So that's certainly a favorite with my parents and my family.
Yeah, and the last part you mentioned, that it's easy, that you don't have to go and like edit them all separately, or mail them a separate thing, or reorganize in a different way. Like it just automatically sends it to them, so it doesn't take more time or energy in that way. But for me, I actually like the some of the kind of sharing and reminiscing, and like it's energizing. Like I don't take the picture of the kid crying or the meltdown they had at the thing, so it does like, oh right, it does tend to kind of inspire me and give me a little more energy for the next one. So the final kind of thoughts I have here are just there's three quotes that I kind of I say live by, but I think about a lot. One is there's a famous distance runner in the 1970s, and I'm a casual jogger and kind of thing, who tried to like run races and would talk about how it's doing something different. So even if it's just something that's like jogging that we don't think of as a particularly unusual or unique activity, thinking about trying to do it maybe in a little different way, or trying to mix it up somehow, or trying to add a new element to that experience, and just being creative and looking for those opportunities even in your kind of day-to-day things. And the second from Jon Stewart, the comedian, and I kind of came of age when The Daily Show, when he was at his kind of height, that if you don't stick to your values when they're being tested, they're not your values, they're your hobbies. And so that saying yes and to yourself part of like, certainly our kids test us in lots of ways of patience and time and money and energy, but like sticking to what how you want to parent and what's important to you and to your family. Hopefully that these values can sticking to them, and really thinking about them and using some of these questions to help reflect on and act on those. And the last is a parenting cliche I'm sure a lot of folks have heard, is that the days are long but the years are short. And there's actually been research on this of like why we feel this way, that some of the days are like, oh my God, this weekend is just never going to end. But oh my gosh, and now the kids, in high school, that like we do tend to forget some of the kind of more routine day-to-day things, and we tend to remember much more the unique and kind of creative experiences. And so the more you can have that, like the more it sort of fills the years and the time and makes you feel more like present and in the moment there. So those kind of what inspires me. I encourage you to keep in touch and check out some of the resources we have. Other questions, discussion folks have, I got time here to hang out, but yeah, and if there's anything you need to do to kind of close this out, but
yeah, I'll again hold some space for some of the folks who are maybe typing right now or what have you, but
yeah.
I think one thing that was really apparent is that you're very intentional about this, which again, I'm sure you love your family. I'm sure it's, your top priority. You're definitely, ranking very, very highly for you. And I know that I'm assuming that you or your wife or partner, have careers as well too. What I'm getting at is the balance of it. And I would love to hear a little bit of your creative process, right? Like you're very intentional about finding these leisure or restful activities for your kids and for your family. And would just love, I know Macaroni Kid is a great resource and especially Hula Frog, when it was operating that way, it's a great resource for us here at DreamBank, and then, for my own personal benefit, my own family. But just to love to hear you share a little bit about your creative process of finding these engaging and enriching activities. Like I know that, Facebook events is certainly a tool like that. I know Macaroni Kid and Hula Frog operate at least somewhat in a similar capacity, but maybe something that the viewers or myself might not already know. Would love to hear a little bit about kind of your process in finding these activities for your family.
So just one quick clarification, I guess, that Hula Frog is under the same like parent brand, but Macaroni Kid is the one that does the kind of local stuff here.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that.
And so for me, it's actually, the reason we said this is the art and not the science is that that process of really like asking ourselves these kinds of questions, and to know that like, I said the ready, set, go, and going with good friends and good company. You can also flip that. I think a lot of times we do that of like, hey, we're gonna go out with these other good friends, and regardless of where the place is, like our kids are gonna find something cool to explore and to see, and like not just let them make their own fun, but like that kind of creative energy or seeing an event that you didn't think of in the same way. Like I think of Dane Dances or something that's here on Fridays in August. Like my kids won't like sit and listen to a concert in the same way, unless it's like a real kiddie singer. Like they're going to want to get up and dance, but like checking out the view from the Monona Terrace, trying a new food. I think sometimes there have been face painters, but like when we've gone with other families, and then they have like a group of kids to all have a little dance party, can be pretty fun. Or even, I guess, another example of like, I play ultimate frisbee, and you asked about, making time for yourself. Like, I play in MUFA in Madison, and I've discovered that bringing a box of popsicles is way cheaper than hiring a babysitter. And so other people on my team that have kids, and like, if we can bring, the new popsicles, or, get that new coloring book or something that's, again, way cheaper than a babysitter, like, my kids are actually fine hanging out on the sideline, and maybe I have to like sit out another point or two to like finish reading them that story, but like, that's okay. And I still get to do something for myself to like play ultimate frisbee that I like, and the kids and all that. I do think it's important for kids to see that, yes, our world totally revolves around them, and it's not exclusive.
Sure.
That, parents still do fun things, have friends, like, are involved in things in the community. And, I didn't even touch on like volunteer projects or political causes or the things you want to kind of expose your kids to that are also really important. And so I think sometimes just having that, we're going to bring that new coloring set or that book we got from the library, but we're not going to read it until we get to this other thing. We'll take a little break, and, we'll get the cool lemonade they have at the thing and read the book for 20 minutes. Like, you can sort of build in that rest time into some of the same activities, or into some of the like, broader adventures.
I love it. I love it. Aaron, again, I want to thank you so much for taking time out of your day to put this here. Thank you all for tuning in and listening to this. It looks like those are all the questions that have come in, so we will wrap things up. Before we do, Eric, I wanted to kind of ask you one more last question. Here at DreamBank,
Yeah.
we're a community that is built of fellow fearless dreamers, and we always like to ask our presenters, what's one piece of advice that you have for someone who is actively pursuing a dream right now?
Who's actively, I think, asking yourself kind of what it would look like and feel like, and then that kind of tangible, like I talked about, that kind of 1,000-foot view that I think we sometimes get lost in the like really big, broad, I want an exciting thing, or I want adventure, or I want something really broad, and like having those values are important. And then thinking about, okay, but like, what might that look like for me, and making it a little bit real, not of, what am I going to do in the next 5 minutes on it, but like, how will I feel? How will I know a little bit, the Teach for America thing of, the parents or the students will be able to, like, by the, when you achieve that dream, like, how will you feel, or what is the sort of like, what can that look like? It helps you kind of operationalize, like, oh yeah, these are maybe some things I need to do to head in that direction. The other thing I'll just mention quick is, I think, as follow-up, I like wrote out some of these ideas as kind of a more narrative article that I'll be happy to share with folks who attended, because I know sometimes we, process things in different ways. I want to refer back to things at other times. So please check it out and keep asking these questions, and keep in touch.
Thanks again, Aaron, for putting this together. Thank you all for joining us this afternoon. So with that being said, we will go ahead and cap it there, and we will see you all next time. Take care.